So we're on the 5th meditation in this group, and in the past 4 weeks we have practiced getting grounded. We have practiced working with the base chakra. We have practiced breathing. The one thing that all of these meditations have in common is practice, because meditation is nothing more than a daily practice. Even when you are an expert meditator, if you are not practicing, then you are not meditating. And of course, you cannot enjoy the value or the benefit of meditation. One of the things that my guides have taught me to do is to live meditatively. In other words, I should be able to be meditative, be fully present with whatever task I am undertaking as I am doing it, as I am being it. So driving, writing, teaching, being at my computer working, being fully present with it instead of thinking 30 other things while I'm doing this. Very difficult. Very difficult, because everybody is a little bit ADD. Everybody has such a long to-do list and task list, and we have all been taught to be multitasking in order to get as much done as possible. And years after scientists told us that multitasking was the best possible way to go, they've discovered that in fact it is counterproductive. They are now telling us that it works better if you get focused and you stay focused on one thing at a time, so that your left brain and your right brain can harmonize around that task and complete it. Multitasking has led to greater procrastination in the world, as most of us in the room know.
So that's why.
That's why. It's one of the reasons why. And we are all great procrastinators when it comes to doing the things we don't like. So one of the other conditioned systems of belief that we've been taught is do the things you don't like first and reward yourself with something that you do like doing. In other words, we've all been trained to treat ourselves like naughty children on the reward system and the punishment system. Now, when we start to think of ourselves this way, it's very difficult to come into the I am an adult space of practicing and consciously choosing where I invest my energy. So, for example, I went to get a manicure and a pedicure today, and the lady spent about 5 minutes, this is a girl I don't really know well, spent about 5 minutes checking what shape she should file my nails into. And she kept asking, do you like them squared? Do you like them round? Would you like the edges rounded and the top squared? And I was looking at her completely flabbergasted that this was the primary point of her conversation. So I said, I don't care. Whatever works for you. Oh, but you know, you'll be seeing it. And I said, no, I won't be seeing it every day. Just whatever works for you. Which means, for her, every time she is doing something, she is noticing the shape of her nails. I mean, that's her job. It's an occupational hazard, probably, that she is noticing the shape of people's nails and whether they're filed square or round or... But it got me thinking about, where do we place our attention? And one of the very first things we talked about in this group was having an intention. And I said everybody in the group needs to have their own intention for coming to this group. And of course, when you have an intention, that is where you're placing your attention. Attention uplifts and enhances your intention. So does everybody in the group have an intention for coming to meditation? Let's hear it. Vaughan, what is your intention in coming to meditation?
Still my mind is focused.
Okay, that's a good one. You're going to be coming to meditation for at least 5 years.
Cool.
Mirrors?
Pretty much the same, sort of trying to get some try to focus on a thing and not get distracted by other things.
Less multitasking.
Pragasi?
For me, Thursday meditation is quite high vibrational, and I don't know, somehow I feel that this one is more relaxing for me.
Okay. Well, you entered the Thursday group higher up in the class, and so now you're catching up with the prequel, so to speak.
Yes, and kind of what I'm doing because it just...
Yeah, you're sort of doing the same thing. Clive?
Breathing.
Breathing? Are you not breathing everywhere else, Clive?
No, calming.
Calming.
Yeah.
Demir?
Learning to sit on an answer for some time before giving it, instead of reacting immediately. Let the dust settle, and meditation helps with that.
Okay. So you're working on responding instead of reacting?
Yes, response instead of reaction.
Okay. Fatima? Charmaine? Since we're asking everybody in the room, let's ask the people outside the room.
Shopping is for the fun of it and because I enjoy it.
For the fun of it. This is always a good reason to go to meditation, for the fun of it. Fati?
Learning to be disciplined and stay awake.
Yes, of course. Now that's a common one. The learning to be disciplined and stay awake. At least she's honest enough to say it. So I'm being a chopal. And here comes Shahina. Shahina, what is your intention in coming to meditation? See, now this is the part that I love, right? All together now. 1, 2, 3. Shahina.
Hello, everybody.
So we also enjoy that moment of calling for you. So we're talking about intention in coming to meditation. What is your intention?
Trying to get into a discipline
Oh.
of attending meditation every Tuesday and Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
One.
Okay.
And then trying to meditate after 1 year. Still trying to meditate.
Learning to meditate itself. Okay. So we all have quite a few common intentions, right? Start again. Common intention in this group is 1, we are learning to breathe. This is the most important one because everybody is breathing unconsciously. We are learning to breathe consciously. Second intention is that we are all learning to be more disciplined, and in being disciplined to be more aware of the agitation of our minds. Third intention, we are learning to use our mindfulness to be responsive in the world as opposed to reactive. And then, of course, my intention is to serve a purpose, which ultimately becomes your intention, because however you use what you learn, because its basis is meditation and it comes from an intention, it will be purposeful in the world. So the way we respond to the world in turn shifts and changes the world. So not to put you off meditation or anything, but I thought we must put the facts out there right at the very beginning. Now that you've been around for a month, let me give it to you straight between the eyes. Firstly, it takes daily practice. Wherever you are, whatever you are doing, you can't just sit in this group once a week and think you are getting meditation right. And even after all that practicing and working at it, you are going to wind up with nothing. This is something I tell my Thursday group very vehemently, that the art of meditation takes you nowhere, to nothing. The only reward you get out of going to meditation is that you wind up liking yourself better. And because you are responsive rather than reactive in the world, you have an authority over yourself. That discipline that you are learning is implemented inside out in terms of managing yourself. And in managing yourself, the world and its opinions and its impact falls away or moves more distant out of the center of your being, and you establish a new authority over yourself. When you establish this authority over yourself, you are establishing an authority over the management of your spiritual body, your mental body, your emotional body, and ultimately, last and certainly least in that scale of things, your physical body. Which is how meditation comes to a space of creating your own well-being. So all four of the bodies are working in harmony, and instead of manifesting dis-ease and discomfort and distress in your physical body, you start to manifest authority, ease, harmony, even a sense of grace inside of yourself that shifts your default thinking out of negative, fear-based orientation into a more positive, non-judgmental, acceptance-based orientation. Now, who thought that their single intention would take them there? But this is the greatest benefit of meditation. So the art of practicing meditation is the art of practicing that discipline, that management of yourself, and you're responding to the world, responding to the meditation, responding to the visualizations and the instructions, instead of simply reacting to them. From this class onward, whatever is your usual reaction in meditation, you are to practice managing that and responding instead. So if your reaction is to fall off to sleep during meditation, this is where you practice not falling off to sleep. If your reaction is to get all agitated and squiggly and want to move around the room, the brain gets more agitated at sitting, immediately you are to remind yourself, this is my resistance to peace and quiet. This is my resistance to having an ordinary, dull life. This is my resistance to not being special. This is my resistance to no drama and manage that resistance. Because when we meditate, we want to get rid of the stories. We all have stories. And in the outside world, I'm a storyteller of note, I know this. In the outside world, the story is fabulous. But inside, where it truly matters, we want only the one story. I am, and then in the outside world, whatever the moment requires, you can go be that story. Inside, only one story. All of the best teachers teach with stories, parables, anecdotes, incidences, events, coincidences, because people learn from experience, their own experience and other people's experience. So the best teachers use stories to teach, but they come to those stories and they are able to tell those stories from a simple space of I am. Then the story is just entertainment. It is not a definition of self. It is not an idealization of self. It is not intended to boost the ego or give you a new way of doing and being in the world. Stories are not intended to make other people change their minds about you. They are merely a way of expressing you in the world and bringing your wisdom or knowledge or experience into the world. That's why teachers use them. Inside, where you reside within yourself, the story must be the same. I am. Not I am in a state of love or I am in a state of fear, just I am. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, so we are getting rid of stories as we go along, and one of the ways in which we challenge the existing stories inside of you is to give you new stories to think about. New ways of thinking about your story even. So that you can detach from your story and recognize that it is just a story, that it is not the essence of you. And that through meditation, we will find that essence of you that says, quietly, peacefully, I am. Even sweetly, I am. I'm much sweeter when I'm not talking. Thank you. Or so I'm told now. Much sweeter when I'm not talking. I think that would apply to most people, don't you think? That they're all much sweeter when they're not talking. So we're all going to practice between one meditation and the next, being sweeter in the world by not talking. Which brings us to the subject of silence. Meditation, by and large, is conducted in silence. Not a silence outside yourself, but a silence inside yourself. And the practice of meditation creates that silence and maintains that silence. But first we have to learn how to create that silence, and that takes work. Most of the work of meditation is to create that silence that, fortunately for all of us, already exists underneath the monkey mind. So here is your mind at the top, consciousness, chattering non-stop, even reacting and responding to what I'm saying as I'm saying it, having its own inner dialogue without any need for expression in the world. Please. And underneath that monkey mind, in your subconscious, is a second layer of dialogue or conversation. Leave it. As if we are processing information out loud inside. Now, if you stop and you just pay attention to how your brain is working, you'll notice in your daily lives that that's what it does. There's the chattering on top, which we barely pay attention to because it's ongoing. I mean, except if you're driving and you're shouting at the driver in front of you, even then it's not the chattering, it's you shouting out loud. But there's a constant mind game going on inside. And then underneath that is an inner dialogue. So even if somebody else is talking, you're having that inner dialogue with yourself the whole way, reacting, responding, judging, accepting, not accepting, formulating your reply, whole conversation going on inside, which means we're not really listening to what's going on outside, and we're not really listening to what's going on inside either. But all of this is happening, and underneath that is quiet. Not entirely silent, because silence on the human plane requires a vacuum and we cannot exist in that. But there is a quiet, almost a hum, a buzz underneath that says, now I've reached past the agitation of my brain to a space where I can hear myself and my intuitive response or my spiritually intelligent response to the world. The work of meditation is being still enough, imposing a stillness on your physical body that teaches it to be quiet, and in turn gives your brain, which is part of your physical body, the message that it is time to be quiet. This is why when we teach meditation, most people assume the position. You sit straight back, breathing properly, arms at your sides, comfortable, so that your body settles into a comfortable position and doesn't feel the need to move unless you are in pain. When I was about 7.5 years old, I went to India with my parents, and I followed the sound of chanting to this huge hall where there were like hundreds of Buddhist monks sitting and chanting as one. It was as if I heard one voice instead of hundreds of voices chanting. And it was the most beautiful thing. It felt like they were breathing in harmony, and they were chanting in harmony, and they were just being in complete harmony. And you couldn't tell the difference between them. They were all seated. Nobody was moving. You knew it was them chanting because their mouths were moving and sounds were emerging. But beyond that, they were just still, quiet. And in fact, it was so beautiful, I forgot the time and I just stayed there and I didn't want to come home. It was just the most beautiful, mesmerizing thing even. And so hypnotic that my brain completely forgot to work. And for me, it was as if I had been uplifted off the earth plane and I was floating in a space where I had no definition. And I think in this entire lifetime, that must have been my first experience of bliss. Of course, my mother was looking for me because I hadn't returned to the tour bus. So she was frantic. And this Buddhist monk returned me to my mother, told her to watch over me because I would give her lots of trouble in the years to come. I would not fit in. He gave her a whole story about me, which, was eerie, but wonderful at the same time. And then he disappeared. It took me approximately 30 years of learning and coming into a realization that that place never existed. That when I was visiting Mahabalipuram with my parents, I had literally just walked off and slid into a space that was actually a space of meditation. And that this Buddhist monk who returned me to my parents, and that's how I realized it was one of those otherworldly experiences, was in fact my life guide. And for me, that moment of total, complete, indescribable oneness with those monks, with those sounds, with the smell, with the breathing, just this consciousness of being so embraced and as one with everything, has always, it's lived inside of me as a delicious moment that I always want to live again. Unfortunately, in the real world, it's very difficult to find that kind of oneness. And it takes a great deal of training to let go of one's mind sufficiently to allow others to come into oneness with you, never mind you coming into oneness with them. So there's my story. And the story for me always has a beautiful feeling. So for yourselves, and it keeps me on intention. It keeps me on intention. I keep thinking one of these days I'm going to slide into that space and my life guide and I are going to meet on the physical plane again, which would be rather cool. We do all the time, but you know what I mean, like in person. So, my mother saw him. So, it had to have been real in terms of him manifesting and returning me to somebody. So for all of you, I want you to find that story inside of you that focuses your attention on your intention. One story that gives you that delicious moment that says, I want to go there. I want to practice my meditation. I want to live meditatively. I want to be self-inspired and self-motivated, because here's the truth. Nobody outside of you, not your boss, not your mother, not your grandfather, not me, are going to stop you and say, breathe, get quiet, meditate. The world will be as one with you and you will proceed better from there. This is a reminder you have to teach your brain to give you. And if you need to train your brain using all of your devices, put an alarm on your mobile device saying, have you breathed properly today? Tell your friends to send you SMSs saying, are you being meditative? Get support. Get people to remind you that you are being meditative in your life and that it's not just a practice that you assume by sitting down every day. Can we just sit? Pandora, come and sit. Let us work. Do you have an intention for meditation? I'm sorry I didn't ask you. Not really. Okay.
Start closing.
No, let's just leave it in case she gets restless and needs to leave the room again. But she's doing a paddy today, so I am unsurprised. But let us work now, okay? Meditation is work for everybody, including god dogs. Very few people come to meditation naturally. Okay. How are we doing? Everybody on track? Okay. So today's meditation is about dealing with that monkey mind and learning to listen to your mind and then stop listening to it. These are all very basic practices of meditation which we forget. I forget. Now when I first started learning to meditate, with my guides I might add, because every time I went to a meditation class I would be bored out of my mind. They would always be trying to teach me some philosophy or religion or something to attach to instead of just the meditation. You know, the philosophy that goes with it. And so my monkey brain and my guides were going, no, we don't need more philosophies. I don't need to teach you how to think of God or any of those things in order to teach you meditation. Those things you must decide for yourself. And you're perfectly capable. The job of meditation is to teach you how to think about those things later. To be quiet, to have clarity. So I didn't want people filling my head with notions. I wanted them emptying my head of notions, actually. So my guides had me sit quietly, and just to practice sitting quietly and feeling my body get resistant to just sitting quietly. It took me about 3 weeks to learn how to just sit quietly and to not feel like I had to go check the stove or switch lights on or answer the phone or do something to make use of that moment instead of sitting quietly. And then I had to learn, in part of that process, how to listen to my brain so that it would learn that I was paying attention. And to teach my brain that when I, as the boss of the brain, am paying attention, it is not allowed to talk nonsense. So the fight with my brain started all of those years ago. It still speaks nonsense all the time, except I'm no longer listening and I'm no longer spouting it in the world. Well, most of the time. Thanks. I thought I was doing better than that. So, and the listening to my brain didn't take as long because I realized quite early on that it was talking nonsense. And I would watch all of this nonsense go by, literally watch it. And I used to play with my brain. So these are games and techniques you can play on your own, where as my brain was chattering on, I'd pretend that my brain had to type it in my head. You know, so now I'd had to put the words there. So I'd close my eyes and try to visualize the words as my brain was chattering. And of course my brain stopped dead. The minute I gave it something extra to do with its chattering in order to clarify the chattering or to make its chattering more meaningful for me, it would shut up. Why? It doesn't like extra work. It doesn't actually like being checked for is it being meaningful. So if I said to you, take a deep breath in and give me a word association with white, automatically everybody's brain would have something pop up. And then if you said to your brain, now type it, write it down in my head. I want to see the whole word. Now put that word in a sentence. Now color that word with a red or blue or green or yellow, and you can go through the whole spectrum of chakras. Your brain is going to go, what? No. Let's move on to something else. And that's what? That's that technique that actually brings it into mindfulness and says, no, we're staying with this. Don't go dashing off to something else. We're staying with this. If it isn't meaningful, if it isn't purposeful, if it's just nonsense chatter, then why are you talking about it? So just as a practice, treat your brain like a stupid person outside of you who is talking utter nonsense and you want to say, shut up now, you are talking nonsense, stop. Unless you can substantiate this nonsense by giving me a picture, by typing out the word, by coloring it beautiful. You know, unless you can do that, stop. So this is something you're going to have to practice in your daily life. When you're driving, for example, and your brain is going everywhere except focusing on the steering wheel and the car and the road and the people around you, and if it's busy while you are busy at work, anything that you are doing, if your brain is going off on those chatterbox tangents, you have to stop it and ask it to substantiate. Now you all know this trick. You ask anybody in your life to substantiate something, and what happens? They look at you like, do you really need an explanation? Nobody likes to substantiate anything. And yet it's such a simple word to use. You know? If somebody says to you, hey, you're looking good today, you look at them and say, oh, hello, substantiate. You know? Extrapolate that compliment. Tell me more about it. It's a really good word to bring most conversations to a standstill so that people can think about what they're saying. And the more you invite everybody outside of you to think about what they're saying, the more conscious your brain has to be in responding. So you now create a two-way system of mindfulness. And one of the things we know for certain is that we become more mindful when we are surrounded by others who are mindful. Okay. Are we ready to meditate? Let's all take a deep breath in, and as is our practice in the past 4 weeks, let us get grounded. Ensure that you are fully present. Settle your body into as comfortable a position as possible, making sure that your spine is straight and you are able to breathe easily and smoothly. And just breathe consciously, inhaling deeply, exhaling, and feeling yourself breathing. Being conscious of prana entering your physical body and the old carbon dioxide based energy flowing outward. Become aware that you are sitting in a group in the physical plane and in cyberspace, and that in being grounded and being present, you are contributing to the group energy and participating with all of the other members of the group. Let us establish the togetherness. We are breathing together. We are becoming conscious together. And we bring a level of respect, caring, consideration to all of the members of the group, even as we receive that. So now we add an awareness, a mindfulness of being a vital ingredient to something, and ensuring that our participation uplifts that, enhances that. I am present to contribute. I am present to consciously add value. So even as I receive oxygen out of the universe, I consciously choose to use that life force to contribute to life itself. And just breathing gently, let that intention and the consciousness and awareness of belonging sink in and rest. Just breathe in and breathe out and rest, being as quiet and as still as possible. Feel your physical body get more relaxed and quieter as you breathe. Feel it becoming quieter and quieter and quieter. And feel the pace of it becoming slower and slower and slower until it feels quiet and still. Just quiet and still. And while you are sitting there being quiet, pay attention to your brain. What is your brain doing while you are practicing being? Just pay attention to what it is doing, not what it is saying. If it is chattering, just let it continue while you focus on being quiet, being still, being conscious of your breathing while your brain chatters. And in your mind's eye, I want you to imagine that that agitation, that chattering, that dialogue or talking, even that self-consciousness of the brain is a dull, foggy layer of cloud that is blocking out the blue sky. Just imagine it as a dull, foggy layer of cloud that is blocking out all of the light, all of the fresh air, all of the possibilities of a limitless blue sky. And every now and again, when you have a bright idea, we would have a flash of lightning piercing through that fog from the limitless blue sky, from the universe itself, in order to inspire you, grab your attention, pierce that chatter to give you intuitive or spiritual wisdom. So imagine in your mind's eye that your foggy cloud, all of the gray matter of consciousness, is being pierced by constant flashes of lightning, bolts of lightning piercing through the fog as you breathe. I am present. I am breathing consciously. I am receptive. I am open to the communication of my spiritual self, my soul self. And with every flash of lightning, with every flash of light, there is an answering stimulus in your energy body. The entire electromagnetic field receives energy. So there in your mind's eye, make it a firework display. Imagine that you are being inundated with bolts of lightning from all around you, all of them piercing through the grey fog of ongoing conscious thinking, chattering mind, piercing through with every breath. This is how the mental body appears when it becomes receptive and open to the new flow of energy. The auric field appears to have lightning bolts of new revitalizing light streaming into it, because the consciousness of all four bodies and 308 chakras and the electromagnetic field is now receptive, is now tuning in to more than just the brain. While you are sitting there, maintaining that visualization, experience, if you will, any of the physical sensations, any shifts and changes anywhere in your auric field as it responds to tuning in to your own spiritual wisdom, to the electromagnetic field, to the electromagnetic consciousness of the entire universe. And as we grow accustomed to these lightning bolts of energy flowing into our field, they feel as if they are receding, but in fact it is only that we have grown accustomed. It very quickly becomes normal because it is in fact natural. Receiving intuitive information and being open to your own wisdom is as natural as breathing. So let the lightning bolts flow all the way through to the core of your being. Let it permeate the fog. Let it create great holes in the clouds and give you bigger glimpses of the unlimited clear blue skies. and let the streaks of light point the way to the greater wisdom of self, of experience, of knowing and being in the world, in this lifetime and other lifetimes, that exists within you. Let it pierce through all of the defenses and the boundaries. Let it pierce through all of the layers of stories, of dramas, of conditioning, of beliefs. Let it pierce through all of the duality thinking of should and shouldn't, could and couldn't, this and that. Let all of the lightning bolts pierce through all of the layers of conscious and subconscious and unconscious mental body activities into the quiet core of your being. And as the energy flows and you're breathing quietly, staying relaxed, staying quiet and still, take a moment to scan your energy system and to feel or experience if any one chakra is responding the most, is giving you a dominant or predominant response to becoming tuned in to the universal wisdom. And let it be. Just become aware and let it be. And on a deep breath in, let all of the visualizing recede and bring yourself into a quiet space of no feeling, no thinking, just being. Just being present and mindful of your breathing. Breathing quietly, keeping your physical body still and as silent as possible. And turn your attention to listening inwardly, to listen to your physical body. And as you listen inwardly, can you hear your own heart beating? Can you hear your heart beat even as you feel it? Is it beating at a smooth, quiet pace in harmony with your breathing? Is there a discordant feeling of anxiety or thumping? And if there is, let us breathe to calm the pace of your heart down so that it is at the same quiet stillness of the rest of your physical body. And breathe quietly and establish a beautiful harmony and rhythm between your heartbeat and your breathing. My heart and I are at one. Feel your physical body get even quieter and more restful when your breathing and your heart are engaged. When you become conscious that your physical breathing and the pulsing of your heart are in fact completely connected for the well-being of your entire energy system and physical body. I breathe deeply and surely. I breathe deeply and abundantly. I breathe in the knowledge all is well. And my heart is peaceful and quiet in that knowledge. All is well. I breathe in the support of the universe, and my heart feels full and supported. All is well. My heart and I are as one. Still listening to your heart, feel if you are more relaxed. Scan, sense, feel if the chattering of your brain has receded, if it is easier to be quiet. And as your breathing and your heart continue engaging in harmony, do you feel more present, more restful, more with yourself? And is the chakra that responded the most to being in communication with an entire universal wisdom still awake, alert, aware? And very gradually become aware if you are able to feel the beat of your heart in all of your physical body. if you can feel yourself pulsating through your entire physical body, just sitting quietly and breathing, can you feel your pulse in your feet and behind your knees and in your throat and in your back? Can you feel that your physical body is responding to maintaining the same pulse, the same pace, the same rhythm throughout your body? That the blood is no longer rushing through your arteries and veins, but maintaining the same pace as you're breathing, as your heart beating. And that as the pace of your body's circulation shifts, so too does the pace of your brain. My heart shows my brain the way. My heart guides my brain into loving, compassionate spaces. All is well. Let us keep breathing and maintaining a smooth, even pace between your breathing and your heartbeat, and your heartbeat and the pulse of your entire body. I resonate with my own breath, and with every breath, all of me becomes more and more present. I am fully with myself. All of me is here. And just breathe and rest. And feel your body experiencing oneness with itself, oneness with all the energy bodies that is I, the soul, fully present in every moment of every lifetime. And if your brain has skittered off anywhere else, take a deep breath in and bring it back to focusing on your breathing. And just breathe and relax. And breathe and feel your heartbeat. And breathe and hear your heartbeat. Register the feeling in your short-term memory, and then very gently, on a deep breath in, let all of the visualizations go. Get grounded once more. And ground that dominant or predominant chakra by connecting it fully to your base chakra and the earth star chakra 8 centimeters beneath the soles of your feet. So I earth and make present my intuitive knowing, and remaining restful and revitalized by your restfulness, bring yourself back to this moment, here and now.